Hey guys, welcome in this new video. I hope that all of you are doing great. In today's video, we are continuing on the trade breakdown series with actually two trades that I took on GBPAUD and GBPCAD. So before we start, as always, if you are not already subscribed to the YouTube channel, I would truly appreciate it if you do that, because that way, well, you are sure to not miss any new videos coming out, and it's the best way to support me. Alright, so like I said, today is a little different than what we usually do, simply because instead of just taking a look at one trade, we will actually take a look at two trades on the same video. Now, the reason why I decided to do that is simply because you will see that these two trades are actually very similar, so I think that it's just better for you guys to actually see both of them in one video instead of like doing two videos, and you know, at the end it will be very similar because it's, like I said, well, a very similar trade that I took on two British pound pairs, and we will see why, but later when we jump on the screen. But basically the trades were led by the increase of value, the decrease of value of the British pound, which is why the two trades ended up actually being very similar. By the way guys, I don't know if you can see the difference, but I think that the quality of the video, like my face basically, is a lot better than what it usually was before, because before I had only one spot of light here, but now I actually added a new spot of light that is basically up there, behind, you know, the camera basically. And what that does is that it, you know, makes light on my screen coming from both ways. And before I just had one light that was coming, like, you know, here, and the other part of my face was like dark, so you know, the quality was not better. But now I think that it's a lot better. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, but I'm really excited for that because it just increased the quality of the videos. Alright, so to go back to what I was saying before about the trades, these two trades actually ended up in very nice profit. Here is the profit that I made in these two trades. If you guys follow me on Instagram, which you should do right here if you don't already, but if you do follow me on Instagram, you saw all the evolution of these trades. I posted you know, a lot of screenshots of them. I showed you guys how they were actually developing when I was still in the trade, and I also showed you guys today the profits when I closed the trades. So these trades were for the short term. Now I also had a long-term perspective on those trades, which, like I said, we will see when we jump on the screen. But I actually treated those trades as short-term trades, and we will see why later, but there are a very, you know, specific reasons of why I did that. These trades were also called in the Reversal Master trading group. If you don't know what Reversal Master is, well, it's basically a course that I created, an online course where I teach people how to trade the financial markets. So if you would like to have more information about the course in itself and how you can join our group, just make sure to check out the first link in the description box below, and it will bring you over to my website, which is where you will find all the information about it. Alright, so let's jump on the chart because I'm talking way too much sometimes. So let's actually get there and take a look at these trades. Okay, so let's take a look at these two trades. So I will start on GBPAUD because, as you guys saw when I showed the profits that I made on those trades, well, GBPAUD was the, you know, majority of it. So I want to start with this one, and then we will finish with GBPCAD. So as always, I will show you guys, well, everything about the trade, well, not everything, right? Because I still need to keep some things for my students, obviously, but I will try to, as always, share as much as possible with you guys for free. So I'll show the entry, the stop, the target, the overall view of the market, the analysis, and everything. So let's actually get right into it. So first of all, let's start on the higher time frame, as I always do. I know that there are a lot of tools on this chart, so please, you know, just don't get confused with all the tools, because at the end of the day, well, they are just tools, right? They are not what matters the most about my trading style, at least. Now, what we can see on GBPAUD on the weekly chart is we have this impulse coming down and we have this correction. Now, we are still within the correction, and I don't think that it's over. It could be that there's a possibility of this going totally downside right now. I don't think it's doing that, but it's not impossible. Since I think it's more likely to stay within the correction for some time, that is the reason why I am treating those trades that I will take on that pair for either short or mid-term trades and not a long-term trades, basically. So let's go now on the lower time frame. And what we can see on there is that we actually have the top of the structure there. We have the downside, and then we came back up pretty deep actually around those levels. And now what I think is actually happening on, like I said, the midterm, is that we will probably either see a correction here and more downside, I mean more upside after that, or we could also see this going down totally and to come back, well, lower than these levels basically, and maybe, you know, a lot lower than that, depending on which pattern it actually makes. Now when we go on the lower time frame, well, here we actually see that we have a very distinctive pattern which actually starts here and finishes right here. I'll not go into details of which pattern it is and why we know that it's a pattern. Those things are reserved for reversal master, but what I can tell you guys is that this is actually probably and very likely to be a complete pattern, because we have this wave up here, this wave that we call a correction here, and the other wave up here. All of these three waves put together make a pattern that we know about and that we trade very often in reversal master. Now that means that when we actually broke these levels, I started looking for a downside potential. And the reason why is, like I said, well, when we broke these levels, we knew that the pattern was likely going to be over very soon. So I just waited for a sell setup to actually get in the trade. Now when we go on the lower time frame, let's go on the 1 hour. Well, you will see on the 1 hour that we actually have this impulse and we have this correction. So when we broke out of the correction and I had the sell setup even on the lower time frame around those levels, well, I simply took the trade right here. My initial stop loss was above the top, simply because even at this point there was still a possibility of this coming back up here and then the downside. That was still a possibility, which is why I had to put my stop above the very first stop and not only this one, because even if we had, you know, made this one more up here, well, we would have still seen the downside after that, which is why that the stop is, like I said, above this stop. So that was the entry, the stop was there. The target was very low. As you guys can see, my targets are always, you know, very low. That's not the target, by the way. I just put the, you know, the box here because I don't like, you know, need to place the target where I think it's going, because there are many different, you know, possibilities of where it's going. So I know these possibilities, but like it's not the green box that tells me where it's going, right? That's a misunderstanding that some people may have. So it's important to understand that the green box, or, you know, in itself doesn't mean anything, at least to me. So the target was way down here. So that is what I mean when I say that this was more of a mid-term trade, because, you know, if I would have kept the trade for all of this downside, then this would have been a mid-term trade. I don't consider this being a long-term trade. For me, long-term is more like at least few months. So anyway, to come back to the trade in itself, after taking the trade, well, you see that it just went and continued the downside pretty nicely. We got another nice correction here, which I didn't take the sell here, and there's a very specific reason of why that is. I'll not go into details of why that is, but there is a specific reason why this sell setup was not a good one, or at least I should say not as good as the first one that we had here. Now, when we broke this low, we had the confirmation of this being a pattern in itself. And when I got this confirmation, I decided to move my stop in profit above the last stop. And the reason why is because if the price actually goes back and break the last stop of the pattern, then it means that either we are not looking at the right pattern or that it's developing into a bigger pattern, which is why I got out of the trade, and that is that's also what I think that the market is doing right now, because I'm still expecting more downside. I just think that we will get maybe another pattern before we actually go, and the reason is pretty simple. When we look at it on the 4 hour, all of this will become eventually one move. and that means that we are likely going to see something like this here if we are going to get more downside, right? The if is really important, but if we are going to get more downside, we're likely going to see another pattern here. This pattern could take many different forms. As of now, we don't have enough information to make a prediction about that, so we only predict that we are likely going to see a pattern basically. Now, when we go back on the chart, well, you see that it basically took me out this morning at where my stop is, which is why in the profits that I showed earlier, if you look closely, you will see that on the left side of the trade there's like a little red bar. If you want, you can go back and see, but there's like a little red bar, and that bar means that I got taken out of the trade with a stop loss, which is what you see right here. So that was pretty much it for the GBPAUD. We saw the overall view of the market as always, the entry, the stop, the target, and how the trade went after taking it, and how I closed the trade. So now let's actually go on GBPCAD and we will do the same process. So let me go on there and let's take a look at what happened on GBPCAD. So like I said, these two trades are pretty similar. I mean, there are a few things that are different, but like the overall idea of the trade is very similar. So I'll go a little faster on GBPCAD because like I said, it's similar, but it's not exactly the same. So if we start on the weekly, well, the weekly looks, similar to the GBPAUD. We have an impulse and we have a correction. We are still in the middle of this correction. This correction could develop many different ways. It could either break down right now or just make one more low here and then go back up. Those are the main scenarios that we're looking at right now. When we go on the lower time frame, we will see where the trade setup actually took place. When we go on the daily, you see that we actually have here a very nice impulse to and a nice correction, which is in that zone that we are trading right now. I think that this could eventually go more downside and break this correction. The only thing we're not sure of is, are they doing that now, or are they, for example, just coming down here and then going back up? That's also a possibility that we're looking for. When we go on the lower time frame, well, the first sell setup that we had was actually at these levels. Now, I did not take this one because that's pretty much exactly the same sell setup as GBPAUD. So I decided to only take GBPAUD because at the end, well, it's pretty much the same trade. So that just depends on your strategy and your approach to how you treat those type of situations. Personally, I just prefer to take one trade on one pair, but that's my style. Some people will prefer to, like, let's say, split the risk on many different pairs. That's not what I do, but some people do that. I don't know if it works well, but what I do works well for me. So that's the only thing I need to know, right? Yeah, so let's go back on the now 1 hour and see where I actually took the trade. Now, like I said, I did not take the trade here. I actually waited for the next correction. This one was very small. I decided to not take this trade, but this one actually looked pretty good. So when I saw that this was actually forming into a pattern, well, I just decided to put my entry down here at the break of the low, and my stop was above it, above the last stop of the pattern basically. And my target, as you saw before, well, is way down, but there are, once again, many different possibilities of how this thing could develop. So we will need to keep following it in order to have a really good and valid view of the market and what is currently happening. After taking the trade right here, we got this little correction and then we continued the downside. After this little downside here, we got another correction, we got another down, and this is when I decided to move my stop above this top right here, because, well, this is the top of the last correction that we have, which means that if we break this top, we are, like I said on GBPAUD, either making a bigger pattern or starting a new one. So those are the two possibilities that can happen after the break of that type of tops. So now when we go on the higher time frame, well, you see that it's very similar to GBPAUD. All of this will probably be one move, which means that to get a long-term downside, we will need to see something like this, right? And you can see those type of movements, on the chart, right? Like, you need those type of movements to actually continue in the same direction that it was going before, right? So that's just the nature of the market. I'll not go further into that, but you guys are already getting more than I should share in those videos. So I hope you see the value that I'm trying to share here. So that's what we're expecting now on GBPCAD. So that was pretty much it for the trade 2. I mean, we saw the overall view, the entry, the stop, the target, and how the trade evolved after taking it, and the exit level. So that was the trade breakdown of these 2 trades. I hope that you guys learned a lot in those breakdowns, and like I said, I try to share it as much as I can. Keep in mind that I cannot share everything in those videos. I need to obviously keep a lot of things as well for my students, for the people who actually pay for the course. All right, so that was the trade breakdown for GBPAUD and GBPCAD. So that's pretty much it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Once again, I hope that you guys enjoyed it and that you learned something from it. If you did, please share it around with other people, because I would like these videos to get a little more views. And the reason why is because I think that they can be very profitable in the sense of the educational aspect for other people. So you would actually help other people if you share this video, I believe. Alright, so thank you so much for watching once again. Take care, trade with care, manage your money well, and I will see you in my next video. Bye bye.